Hey guys, today we're in the book of 2 Kings chapter 1. Now remember what we talked about at the beginning of 1 Kings. The book of Kings, 1st and 2nd, is really just one book in the Hebrew Bible. They split it apart in the English Bible to help us. So in your mind, it's two books, but it's one just continual book. So even though it's a second book, it just continues on exactly where we left off at the end of 1 Kings, at the end of yesterday. And so if you remember, King Ahab of the north part of Israel, he dies, and his son Hazael takes over. And I told you he was a bad king. He only lived for 2 years, and we'll see that today. And Jehoshaphat is the king of the south. And we will see the end of his reign today, and his son will take over, right? So you kind of have this thing going on. So at the death of Ahab, Moab rebelled against Israel. Moab has been under the rule of Israel since David. And so now that this wicked king Ahab dies, Moab sees an opening, and they get themselves away or from underneath of Israel. And so they kind of separate, and we'll see more about them a little bit later. But we see that just like anything, an accident happens, and King Hazael falls through some lattice work, right? We don't really know exactly what happened, but he falls and he gets injured and he gets sick. And he's probably sick for a long time. And so he tells some of his messengers to go up to Baal-zebub, and the god of Ekron, and to go for healing. Now, Baal-zebub, this is the Lord of the Flies. This is kind of the god of flies. It's the god of plagues, the god of pestilence. And so he's sending some messengers to Baal-zebub to say, hey, heal me, right? Make me better. And he really sends them to ask, are you going to make me better? And so these messengers are heading up to Ekron, which is a city. But instead of making it there, God sends them the prophet Elijah. And so they meet Elijah, and Elijah simply says, he asks the question, are you going to Baal-zebub because there is no God in Israel? Elijah's not saying that Yahweh is not in Israel. What he is saying is King Hazael is not living like there is a God in Israel, right? He's living as an atheist, as somebody who does not believe in Yahweh. And so he's kind of poking fun of them a little bit. Hey, are you traveling to a God because no God lives in Israel? Of course there's a God in Israel. You should go to him. It's Yahweh. It's God. You should ask him. And so they say, hey, we're going up this way, and the Lord gives Elijah the answer that Hazael is looking for, right? Hazael sends them and says, hey, am I going to live? And the Lord says, no, you are not going to live. You shall surely die, right? He's basically saying, your problem, your medical condition is fatal. You're not going to make it. And so this convinced the messenger so much, they ended up not going to Ekron, to Baal-zebub, but they went back to King Hazael. And so they get to King Hazael and they say, hey, we met somebody on the road, and this is the message that he told us. And King Hazael says, what kind of man was this, right? Verse 7, what kind of man? He already thought, I think I know who you ran into. And they describe Elijah. He wore a garment of hair, a belt of leather. His name was Elijah. And this is the guy that Hazael knows, right? His dad has run into him. He knows all about Elijah, this prophet of Yahweh. So he sends 50 soldiers to get him. 50 soldiers go, and Elijah says, hey, if you're good, you will live. But if I'm a man of God and you are bad, then you will be consumed by fire. And so he's not saying that they are, he's asking God to judge them, right? To look in their hearts and to see, are they up to good or are they up to bad? Well, they were up to bad, so they were consumed by fire. King Uzziah sends another 50 soldiers and the same thing happens. Then he sends a third group of 50 soldiers. But notice what happens. They come and they fall on their knees before Elijah. And they said, please let my life and the life of these 50 servants be yours, be precious in your sight. They come to him humbly. They are realizing that Yahweh, that the God of Israel is mighty and powerful, and Elijah is speaking for him. So they're coming to him and saying, if it's okay with God, will you come with us? And the Lord told Elijah, verse 15, to go down with him. God wasn't trying to prevent Elijah from going to Uzziah. He was preventing him to go with the wrong people, right? And so that's exactly what's going on. And so he goes to King Uzziah and he asks the same question that he's asked all of these men. Is it because there is no God in Israel? Is it because that Yahweh is not in Israel? No, Yahweh's in Israel. He's powerful. He can do anything. But he tells them, therefore you shall not come down from the bed which you've gone up, and you shall surely die. And we see, and so he died according to the word of the Lord, which Elijah had spoken. And so all of these messages that Elijah has kept telling the messengers and King Uzziah comes true, once again proving that the Lord's word is true. Now, this last verse I want to make sure that you understand because it's kind of confusing. So after Uzziah dies, Jehoram becomes king in the place of the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat. For a small part of Israel, the north, in Judah's history, they had two separate kings by the same name, okay? So you have Jehoram, who is the son of Ahab, because Uzziah never had a son, okay? So you have Jehoram, he's going to be the king of the north, okay? He's the son of Ahab. And for a short time, you're going to have Jehoram, he's going to be the son of Jehoshaphat, and he's the king of the south. Both kings are bad kings. They're not good kings. And so as you read, it gets a little bit confusing. I encourage you to get the chart. It will help. But Jehoram of the north will reign a lot longer than Jehoram of the south, okay? And we'll kind of help you understand this as we read. But there's two different Jehorams. Jehoram, the son of Ahab, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat. King of the north, king of the south. Uzziah dies, Jehoshaphat dies, and now we have these two Jehorams who are kings of the north and kings of the south. Hope that makes a little bit more sense, and we'll see you tomorrow in chapter 2. God bless.